Well, hello, I'm Chris, and this is my Bodywork for Beginners how to do a quarter panel video. Okay, so the main part of this video is we're going to try to narrow down what's good on our quarter before we start doing anything. So we're going to abrade, clean, scuff the surface. Okay, so now we're prepping this panel for our bodywork. Now, about 6 to 9 months ago, I had sandblasted it, put an epoxy primer. Now we're going back and we're looking for any kind of imperfections that we may have missed or that were there. See, whenever you're trying to get your whole panels done, you're in a big hurry. You see that? That's a perfect example of what we're going through the whole panel, making sure that we get all that crap out of there. Okay, now, see, I just went back and ground it all out. The chances are of it doing anything are very unlikely, but the thing is that when you do have something come up in your paint, then you're gonna remember stuff like that. We ground that all the way back down because that whole part right there is screwed up. See what we ended up with? Now, if you've done that, go over the whole freaking thing with Scotch-Brite. You want to scuff this because it can have low places in it. You get what I'm saying? See all that? So go ahead and scuff it with your Scotch-Brite. Alright, so the whole panel has been scuffed 100%, really good with the new piece. Now we're going to start putting our primer on to do the identification process and see what exactly we're working with here. Got it in primer. That's just black primer I'm using for a guide coat. Now we're going to sand this down with a long 2-foot with 80. And we're going to see what our quarter panel looks like. So the basic rule when you're doing that is you just want to keep sanding it until you get most of the guide coat off. That's when you know when to stop. See what we have here? Not bad at all. There's nothing really bad about it. This piece is looking pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and do the bottom. And we're getting all these weird X's right here because the block isn't sanding flat. Sand as much as you can flat. See, we got some low places here, here. It's because it's got a weird bulge that comes in. And the only way you're gonna sand this is with the soft block. So, gotta block that with a soft block. Okay, so the green is going down to our epoxy. So you do get what's happening that all the black, this left is a low place. Those are all our dents or imperfections. The green is where we kind of went too far. And you can see how the primer's already doing its job. It's filling the low places. Okay, so part of the thing in bodywork is managing your time. So we're not going to be able to do that. We're going to have to take a whole day to kind of beat that straight and work that panel right there. But we can work on everything in this area besides that. I'm going to go ahead and show doing this dent and this whole area right here. Always clean the guide coat out. So we're going to float from about there to about right here. So we're going to block these with 80. We're going to try to feather it in, block them out. Now this is a curved panel with 2 curves, so you're not going to try to hit them flat. Now since the whole line was good, we're only watching it for the middle right here where it was screwed up. It starts looking like that, get ready to stop. We're just trying to finish it up down here. The video kind of changed because down there at the end on the quarter, it's completely freaking screwed up. So I went ahead and finished this dent right here, welded, kitty haired, polyestered, And let's see how our area right here is blocking out now. We've already kind of established that this area was good. So we're gonna go ahead and finish this area, or get it close to finish, and then work on our hardest area. And this part of the panel is starting to look the way we want it to. All the orange on there is the low places. If all the orange is low, what are we going to do to fix this? So this is a beginner bodywork video, but I'm going to tell you right now, when you're doing quarters, you're going to have to get you a stud gun, especially if your quarters look like that and you want to get them right. Now the reason that we did all this first in the video is because this is the only way that I can try to explain to a beginner on how to do this right. Because we've done this first, we know all of that is good. Now we need to match that into this, because if we start with that, you really never know where you are. You could be built up too high, you could be too flat. Whenever you start trying to float it into the rest of the panel. So this way we know that that's good. We know that that's good. Now we're going to float our bodywork into what's good. So in that case, we're going to get us a point to never go past. Does that make sense? Don't go past that. There's nothing wrong with it. If your car is using wheel trim, get the wheel trim, because you can use that as a line shaping this panel. Now this one, I'm not using wheel trim on it, but it does have these. You can barely see it, but the bottom of it needs to come out a little bit, so we're going to use that as a reference. Since we're using a stud gun, we're going to go ahead and clean out the low places that we're going to start with. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, that what we're going to be doing is we're going to be grinding out all the orange, the low places. So whenever we go back with our stud gun, we're going to know that those places that look like that are low, where we may need to pull. Okay, so this can be tricky, is deciding where exactly you need to pull. You can mark it, whatever you need to do. Just because we ground it off doesn't mean it's going to have to be pulled. Right there, right there. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little pull right there. Anywhere where it's pretty deep, right here. So let's just go ahead and get an idea how we do that. I think I got this on Amazon. It was like $350 or $400. It was a kit, a beginner kit, starter kit. Real good. All you do is just put it in there like that, and when you push it in there, you're gonna ground it out with this outside edge, and then it's gonna weld. So just make damn sure you know where you are, and it has to be cleaned real good. Put one right here. You just touch it, pull the trigger. And you need to practice on your own how long you need to hold that trigger down, because you can warp this. If you hold it down too long, you will warp your metal. So get you a fine little medium. You usually have to buy the slide hammer separate. Make sure you get one of these little pointy hammers. Everybody's technique is different, but this is what I do. Just bounce it. I actually popped that one out. So whenever I feel high spots, this is what I do. Pull it out. We got some high spots right here. Now I've learned to just barely weld them opposed to welding the shit out of them and They're hard to get off, so see, came right off. But in some cases you will have to weld the crap out of these, like on rocker panels and stuff like that, but this is just a bouncy quarter panel. This is when you do run your hand down and feel for imperfections, knock your high spots out. We're gonna go ahead and finish this up, get it ready to float. Make sure you have it 100% clean. If you're using Bondo or kitty hair, you have to go down to metal. Polyester can go over anything, but Bondo, typically get it back down to metal. This stuff does not flow worth a crap. Stuff that I'm using. Just let it dry 100%. I'm gonna let it dry for about an hour or two. The filler's dried real good. We're gonna take an air file and we're gonna shape it the best that we can. Now this thing can have high spots all over it, but let's just take an air file. That's the best way when shaping a quarter, something that needs to be straight. So with the air file, the only thing you want to do is just cut it down. Air file is not going to shape anything. Got a 2-foot block, fresh 80. We're going to begin to shape the panel. It's real weird because you just keep sanding like that and it will shape itself. You could go ahead and go with polyester right now, but if you're a beginner, you really need to know what you're working with. So we're going to go ahead and put 3 coats of primer on this. It's going to have low places. We're going to have to grind them out and fill them, but let's just see what we're working with here. Alright, so I went ahead and sprayed a guide coat over it. We're going to see what we're working with before we put the polyester on there. Okay, and see, for one pass of Bondo, just blocked it down. That's a really freaking good result right there. That's our first pass. This one might take 3 or 4 to get the end down there. It's all screwed up. Run our hand down it. It's what we want, man. We want it to be matched. Okay, so now we're gonna get all the guide coat out of there and fill it with polyester. Alright, so you see what we fill on there. We're going to go ahead and block these out with 80. Now it is a lot of work to sand those out, but see, we're just getting them close to where they're flushed in. You don't want to go too far because we're trying to build this whole thing up. Starting to feel like a real good quarter panel right now. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. I had to reshape this whole end. It was hit right here. But we're going to go ahead and finish up the sand and put 3 coats of primer. Now our light thing. Fits better. Now even though this may look like Donnie Dumbfuck's Bodywork from down the street, this is going to turn out perfect. We established a starting point, went back, filled the low places, and we're going to have to do it one more time since this is a complex area. Hit it with 180 to smoothen this bodywork out and put 3 heavy coats of primer to see where we are now. So now we're getting closer. We're using 180 now on a long stiff block. So you see now it's revealing its true colors. Small low place, small low place, small low place. But that's what you want to do. You want to take that big block go across it. Now, one of the common problems on cars like this is that you run your hand like this and you feel like these weird high spots like that. You just got to keep blocking it down. Just got to keep doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and block the crap out of this the same way. Try to knock it down as flat as we can. We're going to stop when we start seeing metal through here. Clean the guide coat out. Okay, so we finally got the freaking quarter ready for our final sanding. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've already wasted about a gallon of primer surfacer. You can see the different blocks we used, just that paper right there, just to get this freaking quarter panel done, and I've went over it about 3 or 4 times. Okay, so when we were blocking the quarter out, we were using different length hard blocks like this to square it off. But now we want to get into the contours, and you probably want to use a foamy block or flexible. I went ahead and put a guide coat just to make 100% sure. We're going to knock the top of the guide coat off with 180 on a flexible block. Okay, so this is what happens a lot of times. You're getting ready for your final sanding and you see that you got low places that are just still hanging around. So what are we gonna have to do? We're gonna have to block it down with 180. And if we can't get them out, we're gonna have to put more primer on them. Okay, so it's got a few tiny little low places in it, but we're gonna go ahead and just put the sealer test on it. I can block those out later when the sealer's on there. So we got the quarter sanded down, 320 the whole thing, and then 400 dry. All right, we're gonna wax and grease remove it to get all the chalky crap off. Okay, so the sealer test is finished. You always want to use the light the best you can. Just make sure those lines. Especially on the Chevelle. So on the Chevelle, that's the shot right there. This is black sealer with freaking sand scratches in it. But if you keep sanding that down, anyway, it looks good. Well, if you like the video, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.